Jamal Niaz here with Tyler Breeze at For the Love of Wrestling with Monopoly Events. Lots of old friends to catch up with, so many excited fans to meet you. What's the weekend been like so far?
It's been fun. It's doing these types of things always kind of re-energizes you a little bit because, it's, again, I haven't been here in the UK for probably 5 years. Wow. So coming back here, and again, you kind of just get like the... I guess the excitement of people who haven't seen you and people who have never met you before, and so as excited as they are, I'm also excited to kind of get back into it and meet and greet everybody and just kind of be a part of it. Which this is so far, it's been cool. There's a lot of people coming through, a lot of talent coming through, so it's fun. You
were a part of NXT when it really started finding its feet and coming into the forefront of pro wrestling, when it was kind of transitioning into the black and gold era, really. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't really know how to describe it before the black and gold era, but you were a key figure in that. Sami Zayn, Pac, who's now in AEW, Finn Balor, the roster was absolutely stacked, weren't it? What were some of your favourite moments and matches of that time in your career?
I mean, it was such a wild time because, like you said, it was like before it got cool, you know what I mean? Yeah. Which it was. We kind of were in the middle of, as the rise kind of happened. So I think once we kind of started to realize that we had something special, and again, like you said, the roster, like it was insane. The women's division was good, the tag division was good, the singles division, like everything was good. So I think when we noticed, I want to say when we started doing the takeovers, and we did the first couple takeovers, and people went, "Oh man, this is like really fun. This is like a really cool show." And then we started to do. I think we did something with WrestleMania where we had like a show that had like 5,000 people at it, right. And really cool. It was the first time that Kenta hit the go to sleep and everything, and it was really really fun. And then I think the next one after that was the Takeover Brooklyn one that we sold out the arena the same as SummerSlam did. So once we knew that was kind of hitting, then it was like, okay, this is like something really special, and everybody kind of wanted to be a part of it to where the show would be going on, and again, I'd be wrestling Finn or wrestling whoever, and I'd look, and in the front row was Stephanie McMahon, and in the back you got Hunter, you got Sean started showing up, you had Kevin Nash, you had Vince, you had all these people that were wanting to be a part of stuff because of again how different it was, and it felt. It was WWE, but it felt different than WWE, and I think that was because it was from a ground level, you know what I mean? Like it almost like the people who didn't want to watch Raw and SmackDown, they loved watching NXT. So being a part of that original stuff was just cool, man. It's hard to kind of narrow it down to. It was all just a blur essentially because it was really fun.
Yeah, you had some banger matches with Sami Zayn as well. Obviously, he's doing his thing now on the main roster, and you are still part of NXT now in a writer capacity. Yeah. What's that experience been like, and what do you make of the current roster there in NXT? I bet there's a few guys you'd love to have faced, right?
Sure, yeah, 100%. And that's the thing, man, is like, I've been such a part of NXT that you can't help but always kind of be a part of it in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's coaching, whether it's writing, whether it's just helping out, giving advice, being around, being on the show. You just saw, I don't know if you saw or not, but Dango just was on there the other week. Yeah. So, it's I mean, WWE's hitting on all cylinders right now. It's hard to, not be a part of it. So being a part of the stuff is cool, and having so many different avenues that you can kind of explore and be a part of is fun as well. So yeah, man, NXT in terms of the guys that I would want to work with. Right now the roster is so diverse, I guess, you know what I mean? Especially on the women's side too, is just everybody's a star or a future star or whatever you want to call it. So I would love to work with who would I put at the top of that list? I mean, Ethan Page would be really fun. I think Trick would be really fun. I'm trying to think of like one you haven't seen yet.
Ricky Starks has just joined.
I just saw that. Starks was always he was always kind of on that list where I missed him. He was always either in another company or whatever, but he's definitely at the top of that list too.
100%. So when you mention about guys you potentially want to work with, honestly, do you feel like a return with NXT in the ring could be potentially in the future, maybe even this year? Is that something that you would definitely want? Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny because sometimes I feel very retired. Right. And then other times I'm like, you know what? I'm not really. It's just a matter of, timing for certain things. So I stopped
wrestling full time when 2021. I was kind of just enjoying life a little bit, and then I had a kid, so I had my first kid, so I was just enjoying being a dad, being a husband, stuff like that. So branching back out, getting in on the indies a little bit. It's still very much alive. So yeah, I'm not done. Okay. So whether it, where it comes out, where you see me next is kind of wait to be seen, but it's just a matter of timing.
Well, WWE have that groundbreaking relationship with TNA now, so there's lots of opportunities there. Just in terms of dream matches between WWE and TNA wrestlers, what are some matches you'd like to see, and what crossovers would you want to see? Would you want to see John Cena maybe lift a TNA world title at some point?
I mean, it's knowing John, he's not, above that. He's not above. He very much has his finger on the pulse. So I've seen Joe Hendry talk a little bit about Joe Hendry and John Cena, which I think people would love. I think people would be really into, and I think they would have fun with that. I think John would have fun with it. I think Joe would have fun with that. So I can see something like that. I can see Moose eventually, kind of, again, him and Trick Williams would be great. There's kind of a lot of people that, if you're in wrestling, you know of them. But if you're just kind of a WWE fan, you don't know much about, the TNA roster or anywhere else. So branching, kind of having that bridge, I guess, to go from TNA to WWE is very cool, not only for the fans, but for the talent as well to, show up. We've seen Cora just show up on TNA and again, Dango coming over to NXT. So I think there's a lot more to come, and I think fans are going to be really kind of happy with the partnership.
100%. And the Netflix deal as well, absolutely groundbreaking. In terms of the future of the company, who do you see being those next level WrestleMania main event worthy stars? Lots of big names coming through right now. Yeah,
I think in terms of a roster, the roster is probably the most stacked it's ever been. Not only with new names, but people who've been there for a long time. You have the Usos, who, funny enough, they were one of the tag teams that we wrestled with all the time, and now to see Jay doing his thing and getting his opportunity, and the reactions that Jimmy gets, like it's kind of cool to watch that, like the Kofi Manias and the stuff like that. You have a tag team again like the New Day, who now they've got some new life kind of breathed into them by doing what they're doing. So I love kind of watching that, where these people that again we've watched for the past 10 years are now kind of getting their standout moments or stand out again type of thing. And then you have other people like a Braun Breaker, who's very much on the rise and has a huge career in front of him. Where again, it's you're going to see him on WrestleManias to come for many years. So I think this will be cool. It's a very, very fun time in wrestling.
How daunting was that experience moving from NXT to the main roster for the first time? And who were the guys on the main roster that were very supportive and were there if you needed any advice or just someone to talk to?
It wasn't as daunting as you'd think, because I guess, again, we were working all the time in NXT, and at the end we were working in front of large crowds. So, going to Raw or SmackDown, there's really not that big of a difference. When you're in the groove of who you are, and you know who you are, and you're confident in what you can do, the stage doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter, again, if it's NXT, if it's Raw, if it's SmackDown, if it's Mania, pay-per-view, whatever. It's all the same. So I think knowing the difference, I guess, at the time from Triple H to Vince was probably more daunting in terms of Hunter kind of made me. He made me from the ground up, as opposed to Vince he didn't really have a history there, and it was more of like a, fresh start, I guess, with him. So that was probably the more daunting part, I guess, of moving to SmackDown. But having a guy like a Dolph Ziggler, who I worked with for probably 6 months all around the world, kind of clued me in real quick on, again, just how things work. But I already had a general idea, because, again, wrestling's wrestling. And but I guess getting my feet wet with him and traveling all around the world was awesome.
What have you made of WWE's rivalry with AEW over the years? Because when you started in NXT, there was no AEW, there was no rivalry. And I feel like that rivalry has made both companies infinitely better. Competition definitely makes people level up. What have you made of it?
There's no real difference between, when WCW was around. So competition is always going to breed creativity and, talent and just different. I guess it makes the fans kind of go crazy in their heads of these, dream matchups that you can think of, or these, people jumping to the other company, or, these partnerships with that used to be kind of impossible to think about that are now happening. So, I think in terms of all of it, it's all good. You know what I mean? And again, there's no, I'm an AEW fan, or I'm a WWE fan, or I'm a TNA fan. For the most part, if you're a wrestling fan, you're just kind of enjoying yourself because there's so much wrestling out there right now, and nothing really seems off limits or impossible. Where again, you have the TNA champion in the Royal Rumble, and stuff like that. So I think just being a fan of everything that's going on right now, whether it's AEW or WWE or TNA, I think everybody's just excited, and they're almost fantasy booking, what they want to see in the next 5 years, which I think in the next 5 years, we're going to see a very different landscape in terms of who's around and who stops wrestling and who's coming up and everything else. So I think everybody's just excited.
Awesome. Final one. What would you say is your personal favourite match of your career where you just felt like you was on fire and your opponent was on fire?
I would probably go with the Fatal 4-Way that we had at NXT TakeOver, just because it was one of those ones where, I think it was probably the longest match I've ever had. I think it was like 45 minutes with three other guys who were also, very confident in where they were and their groove of who they were and how they were doing stuff. And I think with the timing of NXT and how everything fell into place, it was just one of those ones that, you get to the back and you go, oh man, that was great. You know what I mean? It's just, it's fun. I guess the best word I always just come back to is fun. Like, the whole point of being a wrestler is to have fun and to, enjoy the guys you're wrestling and enjoy the crowd and enjoy everything that we do. So that one was just so enjoyable that there's nothing, you can't say a bad word about it. You know what I mean? It's still, I still hear about it today. I still go back and watch it and go, yeah, that holds up. You know what I mean? So it's not often that you get a match like that.
Yeah, it was a very magical time for wrestling, that initial startup of NXT. Very, very exciting. Well, I know a lot of fans are very excited to meet you this weekend, so just go ahead and have the best time. I really appreciate the time. Thank you, brother.
Cool. Thanks, man.